The great chamber fell silent as Admiral Park Doan walked toward the center platform. His boots echoed against the polished floor that had witnessed 10,000 years of galactic history. Around him, representatives from 12 ancient species watched from their elevated seats. Some had bodies made of pure light. Others were massive creatures with dozens of eyes. A few looked almost human, but moved in ways that showed they were anything but. Doan kept his face calm. He was 62 years old. He had fought in 3 wars and negotiated peace treaties with hostile aliens, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The message had come just 3 days ago. The Galactic Council wanted to discuss humanity's future. Now he understood what that really meant. The Valanthi High Speaker floated down from the highest seat. Its body was made of crystals that shifted between blue and white. When it spoke, the words appeared directly in Doan's mind. Admiral Park Doan, of the human species, the High Speaker began. This council has observed your kind for 300 years. Since you first discovered faster-than-light travel, we have watched. We have studied. We have debated. Doan said nothing. He already knew what was coming. Humans are too aggressive, the High Speaker continued. You fight wars among yourselves constantly. You consume resources without thought. You change and evolve at speeds that threaten the stability of our galaxy. Most dangerous of all, you innovate. You create new technologies faster than any species in recorded history. A Corthoni representative spoke next. It was a tall creature covered in black scales. In just 3 centuries, humans have developed weapons that took other species 50,000 years to create. At this rate, you will surpass all of us within another millennium. We cannot allow this, the High Speaker said. The Council has voted. By a margin of 11-1, humanity is hereby exiled from all Council-controlled space. You have 1 standard year to remove your entire population from our territories. Doan finally spoke. His voice was steady. And where are we supposed to go? The High Speaker gestured toward a holographic map of the galaxy. Most of it glowed green, showing Council territory. But at the far edges, a region of dark red spread across thousands of light years. The outer reaches, the High Speaker said. You will relocate there. Doan stared at the map. Every human child learned about the outer reaches. It was a dead zone. Radiation storms swept through it constantly. Gravitational anomalies crushed ships without warning. Resources were scattered across systems separated by impossible distances. No intelligent species had ever survived there for more than a few generations. You are sending us to die, Doan said quietly. We are giving you a chance to live, the High Speaker replied. It is more than you deserve. The other council members nodded in agreement. Some of them looked pleased. Others simply looked relieved that the human problem would soon be gone. Doan took a deep breath. He thought about Earth. He thought about the 12 billion people living across human space. He thought about his granddaughter, who had just turned 4 years old. She would grow up in exile if she survived at all. But Park Doan had not become an admiral by giving up. He straightened his spine and looked directly at the High Speaker. We accept your terms, he said. His voice carried across the silent chamber. Remember this day. Then he turned and walked out. He did not look back. The journey home took 7 days. Doan used every minute to prepare his report. When his ship finally entered Earth's orbit, he went straight to the presidential palace in Seoul. President Yoon Murray was waiting for him. She was 54 years old, a former quantum physicist who had never wanted to enter politics. But when the previous president died suddenly, the people had begged her to lead them. She had accepted because she believed in duty. Tell me everything, she said. Doohan told her. When he finished, Murray stood by the window for a long time, looking out at the city lights below. Millions of people lived their lives down there, unaware that everything was about to change. 1 year, Murray said finally. 1 year to move 12 billion people across the galaxy. It cannot be done, Doan admitted. We will lose millions in the evacuation alone. And even if we reach the outer reaches, survival is not guaranteed. Murray turned to face him. Something had changed in her eyes. The fear was still there, but something else had joined it. Something harder. Something that burned. They expect us to die, she said. They are counting on it. Yes, then we will not die. Marae walked to her desk and activated the global broadcast system. Every screen on Earth flickered. Every human in the galaxy would hear her next words. Citizens of the United Terran Federation, she began. Today, the Galactic Council has exiled humanity from known space. They believe we are too dangerous, too aggressive, too innovative. They have sent us to die in the outer reaches. She paused, letting the words sink in across 1,000 worlds. They have made a mistake. Not because we will resist. We will not fight this exile. We accept their judgment. But they have made a mistake because they have shown us exactly what they think of us. They see us as animals, as threats, as problems to be eliminated. Her voice grew stronger. Now we will show them what humanity becomes when it has nothing left to lose. We will go to the outer reaches. We will survive. We will build. And one day, when they have forgotten about us, we will return. Not as refugees, not as exiles, but as equals, or as conquerors. The choice will be theirs. She ended the transmission. For a moment, the world was silent. Then, slowly, a sound began to rise. It started in Seoul and spread across the planet. People were cheering. Not because they were happy, but because they refused to be afraid. The great exodus began the next morning. Every ship that could fly was pressed into service. Families packed their lives into small containers. Scientists gathered every piece of knowledge humanity had ever created. Engineers dismantled factories and loaded them onto transport vessels. Kang Jisoo was 28 years old when she boarded the generation ship Dawn of Hope. She was an engineer who specialized in exotic matter. Before the exile, she had been working on theoretical energy systems. Now she carried all her research in a small data chip pressed against her heart as the ship pulled away from Earth. Jisoo looked out the window at her home world. She made a promise to herself. She would find a way to survive. She would find a way to thrive. And someday, she would make the council regret what they had done. Behind her, 12 billion humans began their journey into the unknown. The exile had begun. But this was not the end of humanity's story. It was only the beginning. The first year in the outer reaches killed 200 million people. Radiation storms destroyed entire fleets without warning. Ships vanished into gravitational anomalies and were never seen again. Colonies ran out of food and oxygen. Disease spread through crowded generation ships. Children grew up knowing nothing but death and struggle. But humanity did not break. Kang Jisoo stood on the observation deck of Research Station 7, watching a black hole spin in the distance. She was 35 now. 7 years in the outer reaches had changed her. Her hair had turned gray at the temples. Her eyes had grown hard. But her mind was sharper than ever. The readings are confirmed, said her assistant, a young man named Yoon Tae-ho. The accretion disk is producing more energy than we can measure. Jisoo nodded slowly. For 3 years, she had studied this black hole. Everyone said she was wasting time. Resources were precious. People were dying. Why spend effort on theoretical physics when they needed food and medicine? But Jisoo had seen something no one else could see. The spinning matter around the black hole released energy as it fell inward. If they could capture even a tiny fraction of that energy, they would never need to worry about power again. Begin the harvesting test, she ordered. The device was simple in concept, but incredibly difficult to build. A network of collectors positioned around the black hole, connected by quantum links to power stations across human space. If it worked, every colony would have unlimited energy. If it failed, they would lose their last chance. The collectors activated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the readings began to climb. Energy flowed through the network like blood through veins. Power stations across a dozen systems came online simultaneously. Yoon Tae-ho stared at his screens in disbelief. We did it, he whispered. We actually did it. Jisoo allowed herself a small smile. This is only the beginning, she said. News of the breakthrough spread like fire. Within months, energy was no longer a concern. Factories could run day and night. Farms could produce food without limits. Ships could travel without worrying about fuel. But Su was already working on the next problem. General Park Do-eun visited her station 2 years later. He was 72 now, his hair completely white, but his mind remained sharp. After the exile, he had taken charge of rebuilding humanity's military. It was thankless work. Most people just wanted to survive. They did not think about the future. They did not think about revenge. Do-hun thought about it every single day. "I hear you are working on new propulsion systems," he said. Sitting across from Jisoo in her small office, "The Council species have used the same faster-than-light drives for 50,000 years, Jisoo replied. "They work, but they are slow and inefficient. I believe we can do better." She showed him her designs. Instead of pushing through normal space, her engines would slip between dimensional layers. A ship could move from one point to another almost instantly, appearing to teleport across vast distances. "How long until it is ready?" Do-eun asked. "Maybe 15. Do-eun nodded. "I can wait. I have been waiting my whole life." Jisoo looked at the old general. She saw the anger hidden behind his calm face. The same anger that burned in every human heart. The Council had cast them out like garbage. That wound would never heal. "When the time comes," she said, "we will be ready." The years passed. Jisoo delivered on her promise. Phase-lip engines changed everything. Suddenly, human ships could cross distances that took Council vessels months in mere hours. Trade routes connected far-flung colonies. Military forces could respond to threats anywhere in human space almost immediately. Other breakthroughs followed. Medical technology that extended human lifespans by centuries. Artificial intelligence that could adapt and learn without limit. Weapons that made Council technology look like stone tools. The harsh environment of the outer reaches, which was supposed to kill humanity, instead forced them to innovate at incredible speeds. Every problem demanded a solution. Every challenge demanded creativity. The comfortable Council species, who had not faced real hardship in millennia, had grown slow and stagnant. Humans, fighting for survival every day, evolved faster than anyone could have predicted. Baek Tae-woo was one of the few humans who remained in Council space. He was an intelligence operative, a spy who had stayed behind when everyone else left. For decades, he had built networks of informants. He had gathered information, and he had sent it all back to the Terran sovereignty. His reports painted a clear picture. The Council had forgotten about humanity. They assumed the exiles had died out long ago. No one bothered to monitor the outer reaches. No one cared what happened to the primitive species. They had cast away. Their arrogance would cost them everything. By the year 2320, 73 years after the exile, humanity had transformed. The scattered refugees had become the Terran sovereignty, a civilization spanning 300 star systems. 40 billion humans lived in the outer reaches, thriving in places that should have been impossible. They had built shipyards in the corona of young stars, using the incredible heat to forge new alloys. They had established research stations inside nebulae, studying exotic matter and dark energy. They had colonized rogue planets, frozen worlds drifting between systems, and turned them into fortress bases. General Park Do-eun died peacefully in his sleep at the age of 93. His final words were spoken to his granddaughter, Park Soo-yeon, who was just beginning her military career. "Do not forget," he told her. "Do not forgive. Make them remember." Soo-yeon held his hand as he passed. She was 25 years old, full of fire and determination. Her great-grandfather had witnessed the exile. She would witness the return. Kang Jisoo, now in her 90s, but kept healthy by advanced medicine, continued her work. Her latest project was the most ambitious yet. She called it the Prometheus Array, a system capable of disabling all technology across an entire star system by manipulating fundamental forces. "This is not a weapon of destruction," she explained to the Terran Military Council. "It is a weapon of demonstration. We do not need to kill our enemies. We need to show them that we could, and chose not to." The Council approved her project. Resources flowed to her labs. The finest engineers in human space joined her team. Outside the conference room, ships moved through the darkness of the outer reaches. 40 billion humans worked, lived, loved, and dreamed. They had survived the impossible. They had built something magnificent from nothing. And soon, very soon, the galaxy would learn what humanity had become. Supreme Commander No Yuna stood before the tactical display, her dark eyes studying the map of the galaxy. She was 45 years old, the granddaughter of refugees who had lost everything in the exile. Her grandmother had died during the first year in the outer reaches, killed by a radiation storm that destroyed her colony ship. Her parents had spent their lives rebuilding, never asking for thanks, never complaining about their fate. Yuna had inherited their strength and their silence. She rarely smiled. She never raised her voice. But everyone who served under her knew the truth. Behind her calm exterior burned a fire that nothing could extinguish. She had dedicated her entire life to one purpose: making the council pay for what they had done. "Report," she said. Colonel Han Byung-ho stepped forward. He was the head of intelligence, responsible for coordinating with Baek Tai-woo and the network of spies scattered across council space. "The operation is proceeding according to plan," he said. "Over the past 60 years, we have inserted 3,000 operatives into council territory. They have mapped every defense station, every supply route, every military base. We know more about their capabilities than they know themselves." Yuna nodded. "And the political situation?" Han Bun-ho allowed himself a small smile. "The council is rotting from within. The 12 species barely tolerate each other. The Valanthi and the Korthoni have been enemies for 20,000 years. The Metsari are secretly trading weapons with pirate factions. 3 species are facing economic collapse. The only thing holding them together is their shared belief that they are superior to everyone else." "And their belief that we are dead," Yuna added. "Yes, Supreme Commander. Baek Tai-woo confirms that no council species has monitored the outer reaches in over 50 years. They assume we died out long ago." Yuna turned back to the tactical display. Green lights marked council territory. Red lights marked human space. Between them lay a vast gulf of empty systems, a buffer zone that had protected both sides from contact. Soon, that buffer would disappear. "Continue the surveillance operations," she ordered. "I want complete information on every council homeworld. When we move, there can be no surprises." Fleet Admiral Choi Han-yul arrived at the command center 3 days later. He was 52 years old, a veteran of countless battles against pirates and hostile alien species in the outer reaches. Unlike Yuna, who preferred shadows and planning, Han-yul was a warrior. He believed in direct action and honorable combat. But he also understood the value of allies. "The Draon have agreed to meet," he reported. "Their delegation will arrive at Station 12 next week." The Draon were a species that the Council had tried to exterminate 500 years ago. The official records said they were extinct. But rumors had persisted for centuries that survivors had fled to the galactic halo, the thin region of scattered stars surrounding the main spiral arms. Human explorers had found them 30 years ago. A civilization of 3 billion, nursing hatred that had burned for 500 years. They had been waiting for a chance at revenge. Now, humanity was offering them exactly that. The meeting took place in a sealed chamber on Station 12. Han-yul represented humanity. The drones sent their elder council, 5 ancient beings whose bodies were covered in silver scales that had turned dark with age. "You are truly human?" the eldest drone asked, studying Han-yul with eyes that had witnessed centuries of suffering. "I am," Han-yul replied. "We heard stories. The council exiled your kind to the outer reaches. We assumed you had perished like so many others. We survived." The drown elder made a sound that might have been laughter. "The council always underestimates those they consider inferior. They thought us extinct. They thought you dead. Their arrogance blinds them to everything." Han-yul leaned forward. "We are preparing to return to council space. Not as refugees. Not as petitioners. We will demand recognition as equals. If they refuse, we will take what we deserve." And what do you want from us? Alliance. When the time comes, we would like the Drawn to stand with humanity. Together, we can reshape the galaxy. The Drown elders conferred among themselves in their own language. Finally, the eldest turned back to Henyul. For 500 years, we have dreamed of revenge. We have trained our children to fight. We have built ships in secret, waiting for a chance that never came. Now you offer us that chance. He extended a scaled hand. The Drawn will stand with humanity. When you move against the Council, we will be at your side. Haniel took the hand. In that moment, the first alliance was forged, but it would not be the last. Over the next several years, humanity reached out to other species wronged by the Council. Some were refugees, driven from their homes by Council expansion. Others were survivors of failed rebellions, hiding in the dark spaces between stars. A few were even members of Council species, dissidents who had grown disgusted with their own civilizations. One by one, they joined the growing coalition. By 2380, humanity had forged alliances with 17 different species. Together, they represented a force unlike anything the galaxy had seen. President Essio Giho addressed the Assembly of Worlds, humanity's governing body, in the spring of 2381. He was 61 years old. A calm and thoughtful leader who had spent his career preparing for this moment. Citizens of the Terran sovereignty, he began. For 134 years, we have lived in exile. We have suffered. We have struggled. We have built something magnificent from the ashes of rejection. He paused, looking out at the assembled representatives from 300 human worlds. The time has come to end our isolation. We do not seek revenge. Revenge is petty. We do not seek destruction. Destruction solves nothing. We seek justice. We seek recognition. We seek our rightful place among the stars. His voice hardened. The Council cast us out because they feared what we might become. They were right to fear, but they made one mistake. They assumed we would die. Instead, we grew stronger. Now we will show them exactly what humanity has become. The assembly erupted in cheers. Supreme Commander No Yuna watched from her position near the back of the chamber. Her face remained calm, but inside, her heart was racing. The plan was ready. The fleets were in position. The moment humanity had been waiting for was finally at hand. In her quarters later that night, Anna reviewed the final details of Operation Daybreak. Phase-lip drives would allow human fleets to appear simultaneously around every Council homeworld. The Prometheus array would demonstrate their technological superiority without killing millions. Everything was calculated to send one clear message. We are back. We are stronger than you, and we choose peace. If you are wise enough to accept it, Yuna closed her eyes and thought about her grandmother, who had died so long ago in the darkness of exile. Soon, she whispered, soon they will know what we have become. The shadows were about to step into the light. The Galactic Council was celebrating. 1,000 years had passed since its founding. Representatives from all 12 member species had gathered on Nexus's Prime to commemorate the occasion. Grand ceremonies filled the ancient station. Speeches praised the wisdom of the Council. Banquets featured delicacies from across the galaxy. The Volanthi High Speaker, descendant of the one who had ordered humanity's exile over a century ago, floated above the main assembly hall. Its crystalline body pulsed with satisfied light. The Council had maintained peace for a millennium. Lesser species had been contained. The galaxy was stable. Everything was perfect. Then the lights flickered at first. Everyone assumed it was a minor power failure. Technical problems happened, even on Nexus Prime. Engineers would fix it quickly, and the celebration would continue. But the lights did not come back on normally. Instead, every screen in the assembly hall activated simultaneously. Every holographic display across the entire station flickered to life. And then, impossibly, the same thing happened across all of Council space. Billions of screens on thousands of worlds showed the same image. A human face. President Essio Giho looked calm as his transmission reached every corner of the galaxy. Behind him, the flag of the Terran sovereignty hung proudly, a symbol that no one in Council space had seen for over a century. "Greetings to the honorable members of the Galactic Council," he began. His voice carried the weight of generations of suffering and triumph. "My name is Seo Jiho, and I am the president of the Terran sovereignty. 134 years ago, your predecessors stood in judgment of my species. They declared us dangerous. They declared us unworthy. They exiled us to the outer reaches, expecting us to die." He paused, letting the words sink in. Across Council space, billions of aliens stared at their screens in shock. "Humans, still alive? Impossible. We did not die," Jiho continued. "We survived. We adapted. We grew. And we became something that your ancestors could not have imagined." The image behind him changed. It showed vast fleets of ships unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Sleek, powerful vessels that seemed to bend light around them. Massive stations built in places that should have been impossible. Planet-sized shipyards orbiting young stars. "This is what Exile created," Jiho said. "You gave us nothing, so we built everything. You expected us to fail, so we succeeded beyond your wildest dreams. Your arrogance made us strong. Your cruelty made us determined. Your abandonment made us free." On Nexus Prime, chaos erupted. Council representatives shouted questions that no one could answer. Military commanders demanded information about this impossible human fleet. The Volanthi High Speaker called for immediate action, its crystalline body flashing angry red, but no one knew what to do. The transmission could not be traced. The encryption was beyond anything Council scientists could break. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Council was completely helpless. Jiho's transmission continued. "We do not come as enemies. Despite everything you did to us, we do not seek revenge. Revenge is the weapon of the weak, and we are no longer weak. We seek recognition. We seek justice. We seek our rightful place among the civilized species of this galaxy." His eyes hardened. "You may accept us as equals. You may open negotiations for peaceful coexistence, or you may resist. The choice is yours. But know this: the galaxy you thought you controlled is no longer yours alone. Humanity has returned, and we are not going away." The transmission ended. Silence filled the assembly hall on Nexus Prime. Then Supreme Commander No Yuna gave the order. "Operation Daybreak," she said. "Execute." Across the galaxy, human fleets activated their phase-slip drives. In an instant, they crossed distances that would have taken Council ships months to travel. One moment, the space around Council homeworlds was empty. The next moment, thousands of human ships appeared from nowhere. The Volanthi homeworld saw 300 human warships materialize in perfect formation around their planet. The Korthani capital system found itself surrounded by 500 vessels, each one bristling with weapons that their sensors could not identify. Every major Council world experienced the same thing. No shots were fired. No weapons were activated. The human ships simply held position, a silent demonstration of absolute capability. They stayed for exactly 1 hour, long enough for every being on those worlds to understand what was happening. Then, as suddenly as they had appeared, they vanished. The message was impossible to misunderstand. "We could have destroyed you. We chose not to." Emergency sessions convened across Council space. Military leaders demanded immediate mobilization. Scientists struggled to understand how humans had achieved such advanced technology. Politicians argued about how to respond. The Volanthi High Speaker addressed the Council 3 days later. Its crystalline body still flickered with agitation. "This is clearly a bluff," it declared. "The humans cannot possibly have the resources to challenge all of Council space. They are trying to intimidate us into submission. We must respond with overwhelming force." The Mitsari representative disagreed. "We saw their ships. Our sensors could not even fully scan them. If we attack and fail, we will lose everything." "We will not fail," the High Speaker insisted. "The Council has maintained peace for 1,000 years because lesser species know they cannot challenge us. If we show weakness now, every subordinate race in the galaxy will begin to question our authority. The debate raged for weeks. Eventually, the council split. 3 species immediately opened diplomatic channels with the Terran sovereignty. They had seen the human fleet and wanted no part of a war they could not win. But the Velanthi convinced 4 other species to form a military coalition. They would gather their combined fleets and crush the human threat before it could grow any stronger. Honor demanded it. Pride demanded it. Fear, though none would admit it, demanded it. Fleet Admiral Choi Han-yul received word of the coalition's formation with something approaching satisfaction. "They are doing exactly what we predicted," he told Yuna. "Arrogance makes them predictable," Yuna nodded. "Prepare the defense. When they come, we will be ready." The coalition fleet gathered over 6 months. 8,000 ships from 5 species, the largest military force assembled in council history. Their commanders were confident. Yes, the humans had impressive technology, but numbers mattered. Experience mattered. The council had fought wars for 50,000 years. Humans had barely existed for a fraction of that time. The fleet departed for the Meridian Straits, a strategic corridor connecting council space to the outer reaches. Intelligence suggested that human forces were massing there. The coalition would strike hard and fast, destroying the human military before they could respond. They traveled for 3 weeks. Their slower drives unable to match human phase slip technology. When they finally arrived at the Straits, they found exactly what they expected. A human fleet was waiting. But instead of the thousands of ships they had anticipated, only 300 vessels floated in the darkness. The coalition commander, a Velanthi admiral, felt a surge of triumph. The humans had underestimated them. This would be easy. "All ships," he ordered, "attack formation. Destroy them all." 8,000 ships moved forward, weapons charging, ready for battle. In minutes, they would overwhelm the tiny human force. In hours, they would be on their way to the human homeworlds. In weeks, this rebellion would be crushed. They had no idea what was about to happen. On the bridge of the human flagship Eternal Dawn, Fleet Admiral Choi Han-yul watched the approaching enemy fleet with calm eyes. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. No one was afraid. They all knew something the council did not. Admiral, his tactical officer, reported, "Enemy fleet is entering optimal range for the Prometheus A." Ray Han-yul nodded. "Activate the array. Show them what humanity has become." In the darkness between stars, ancient systems came online. Forces that the council had never imagined were unleashed. And in an instant, everything changed. The Prometheus array activated with a pulse of energy that rippled across the entire star system. To the sensors aboard the coalition fleet, it looked like reality itself was bending. Then, one by one, their ships began to die. Not explode. Not burn. Weapon systems went offline. Engines sputtered and failed. Life support flickered, but held. Navigation computers showed nothing but static. Communication systems produced only silence. 8,000 of the most advanced warships in Council history had become 8,000 floating coffins in the space of 30 seconds. The Coalition Admiral stared at his dark bridge in disbelief. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the faces of his terrified crew. They could see the human ships through the viewport, moving among them like sharks among helpless fish. What happened? Someone whispered. No one had an answer. Fleet Admiral Choi. Han-yul watched the disabled enemy fleet with something approaching sadness. He had hoped it would not come to this. Humanity had offered peace. They had demonstrated their power without violence. But the Council's arrogance had made war inevitable. "All ships," he ordered, "begin precision strikes. Disable engines and weapons only. Minimize casualties." The human fleet moved through the helpless coalition forces with surgical precision. Targeted energy weapons destroyed drive systems. Cutting beams removed weapon arrays. Each strike was calculated to neutralize without killing. It was war as art, violence refined to its purest form. 6 hours later, it was over. 6,000 coalition ships had been captured intact, their crews alive but powerless. 2,000 had managed to retreat when the Prometheus arrays effect faded, limping back to council space with tales of horror and defeat. The human fleet had lost 12 ships damaged, none destroyed, 0 casualties. The Battle of the Meridian Straits would be studied for centuries. Military academies across the galaxy would analyze every moment, trying to understand how 300 ships had defeated 8,000. Most would miss the point entirely. Humanity had not won because of superior numbers or brute force. They had won because they understood something the Council had forgotten. War was not about destruction. War was about making your enemy understand that resistance was pointless. The Coalition fleet was not destroyed because humanity did not need to destroy them. Defeat was enough. Humiliation was enough. The message would spread faster than any weapon. News of the battle reached Council space within days. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. The Velanthi High Speaker, who had been so confident of victory, retreated to its private chambers and refused to speak to anyone. The military coalition collapsed as member species blamed each other for the disaster. 3 more council races immediately opened diplomatic channels with the Terran sovereignty. Within weeks, Velanthi surrendered unconditionally. Their fleet was gone. Their technology was obsolete. Their pride was shattered. For the first time in their ancient history, they admitted defeat to a species they had once considered beneath contempt. President Ogiho accepted their surrender with grace. There were no demands for territory, no calls for punishment, no revenge for centuries of exile. Instead, humanity offered something unexpected: partnership. "We did not fight this war to dominate you, Jiho," told the Velanthi delegation. "We fought because you left us no choice. But the war is over now. What matters is what comes next." The Velanthi ambassador, a young crystal being who had replaced the disgraced High Speaker, did not understand. "You have the power to destroy us. Why show mercy?" Jiho smiled. "Because destruction accomplishes nothing. We spent 134 years in exile, building a civilization from nothing. We learned that creating is always harder than destroying. Any fool with enough weapons can tear things down. It takes wisdom to build things up." He leaned forward. "We are offering you a choice. You can remain our enemy, nursing hatred and waiting for a chance at revenge that will never come. Or you can join us, not as subjects, not as conquered people, as partners. Together, we can build something better than the old council ever imagined." The ambassador was silent for a long moment. Finally, it spoke. "Why would you trust us? After everything the council did to your people?" "Because trust has to start somewhere. Because holding grudges poisons the soul. Because we want our children to grow up in a galaxy at peace, not one torn by endless war." Jiho stood and extended his hand, a human gesture that the Velanthi had learned to recognize. "The choice is yours. But I hope you choose wisely." The ambassador looked at that offered hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, it reached out with its own crystalline appendage and accepted. The Galactic Assembly was founded 6 months later. It was not like the old council. Every species, regardless of size or power, had an equal voice. The ancient hierarchies that had dominated the galaxy for millennia were swept away. In their place stood something new, something built on cooperation rather than domination. The Drayon delegation arrived for the first session, accompanied by Choi Han-Yul himself. For 500 years they had been officially extinct, their civilization erased from history by council decree. Now they stood in the center of the assembly chamber, surrounded by representatives from dozens of species. The Drawn Elder. Who spoke was the same one who had met with Han-Yul years ago. His scales had turned even darker with age, but his voice remained strong. "For 500 years my people hid in the darkness. We taught our children to hate. We trained them to fight. We waited for revenge that never came." He paused, looking around the chamber at the faces of former enemies. "Today, we are offered something better than revenge. We are offered belonging. We are offered partnership. We are offered hope." His voice broke slightly. "Humanity did not just save themselves. They saved us. They showed us that the galaxy could be different. That hatred did not have to rule forever. For this, the Drayon will be eternally grateful. The chamber erupted in applause. Species that had been enemies for millennia stood together, united by a vision of what the galaxy could become. 20 years passed. The Galactic Assembly grew stronger with each year. Trade flourished. Technology was shared. Old wounds slowly healed. The exile that was meant to destroy humanity had instead created a force for positive change that transformed the entire galaxy. Grand. Admiral Park Soo-yan stood on the observation deck of the Eternal Dawn, now the flagship of the combined Galactic Defense Fleet. She was 45 years old, the same age her great-great-grandfather had been when he witnessed the exile that started everything in her hands. She held an old photograph. It showed Admiral Park Doan standing alone before the council chamber, moments before receiving humanity's death sentence. His face was calm, his spine straight. He had known what was coming, and he had faced it with dignity. "You were right, great-grandfather," Soo-yan whispered. They remembered that day. Outside the viewport, ships of 100 designs flew in perfect formation, human vessels alongside Drayon cruisers, Valanthi science ships next to Korthani traders, 27 species working together, protecting a galaxy at peace. On every human world, a message played at sunrise and sunset. It was the same message that had sustained them through the darkest years of exile, the words that had become their anthem of survival. We were cast into darkness. We became the light. Far below, on 100 planets, children looked up at the stars without fear. They learned about the exile in school, a chapter of history rather than a living wound. They grew up knowing that the galaxy was their home. They were part of something greater than themselves. The Council had exiled humanity to die. Instead, humanity had built an empire, but not an empire of conquest and domination. An empire of hope, of partnership, of endless possibility, and across the galaxy. Species that had once feared each other now worked together, building a future brighter than any of them could have imagined alone. This was humanity's true victory. Not military triumph, not technological superiority, but the creation of something beautiful from the ashes of rejection. The transformation of exile into opportunity. The conversion of enemies into friends. The stars burned cold and eternal in the darkness, but among them, life flourished. Hope endured, and the light that humanity had kindled would never go out.